We're going to get into FaZe Gate. FaZe Clan influencers exit over contract dispute with new owner, from Cecilia D'Anastasio on the Bloomberg Tech side. Great reporter. The future of the popular influencer group FaZe Clan is in flux once again after several members announced their departures this week following failed contract talks with new management. The members known as Adapt, Jason, Ronaldo, Lacey, and Silky all posted on X that they had left FaZe. The website for the group lists 6 members, only one of whom, Rage, hasn't publicly announced that he's leaving. 14 years, Adapt said online. Technically, I think it's Rage and Hasan that have not left from, like, you know, from the people that were there and the people that also were collaborating with everybody else. 14 years, Adapt said online. Over half my life, I'd be lying if I said this didn't hurt, but it had to be done. None of the members responded to requests for comment. The current financial structure of FaZe is unsustainable, according to Matt Kalish, Chief Executive Officer of Heartscope, a FaZe investor. He gave the influencers who operated from a multi-million-dollar Los Angeles mansion the option to go independent or sign deals with Heartscope. He ended talks with them last week and plans to continue on without them. My best guess is they're all good kids and have a lot of people in their ear and are confused, Kalish said in an interview. FaZe had subsidized a lot of their expenses, he added. The influencer, people who didn't leave probably have a really nice contract. No, I doubt it. I think that the people who didn't leave probably have a very different contract and they weren't, and that they're like locked into it still. I suspect that the ones who didn't leave are in a totally separate situation. Like they probably had an earlier one, maybe even a more aggressive contract, as a matter of fact. So like the timing is probably different because like Rage signed, I think either earlier or after everybody else. Like I think he re-signed. Or they might have like ownership stake as well. I suspect that there's probably a little bit of ownership stake at play here as well. But the influencers felt like the terms Kalish offered were unfavorable, according to a person with knowledge of discussions who asked not to be identified. The talks have gone on about half a year. Plaqueboy Max, another FaZe influencer, left in August. He explained why in a live stream post on Thursday. We have no control, he said. There was no control and it's like we're puppets. At least that's what it felt like. You get what I'm saying? Baba ne olur burada bağırmayın birbirinize. Ben kendimi düşünün. Arkadaşlar. Lütfen. Teşekkürler. A co-founder of sports betting site DraftKings Inc., Kalish began investing in FaZe last year. He said he's put $10 million into the talent group over the past 18 months to expand their careers. Kalish launched Heartscope as a way to turn creators into next-gen media moguls. The business connects sponsors and fans with personalities who stream on content sites like Twitch. Founded in 2010, FaZe began as a group of friends posting their video game play on YouTube. They were among the pioneers of the group house concept, where players lived and streamed together. As its online audiences grew, FaZe expanded into esports teams and million-dollar sponsorship deals. Kendimi düşünemiyorum is crazy. I was trying to say in Turkish that I can't hear my own thoughts in my brain, and I fucked it up because I don't speak Turkish that much. Anyway. After an anticipated $1 billion valuation when the company went public in 2022, FaZe became a penny stock amid concerns the company's primary business model, sponsors brands, did not form a stable basis for growth. FaZe influencers struggled under various leadership arrangements. In 2023, the company fired Chief Executive Officer Lee Trink after allegations of poor spending decisions and disagreements with talent. Lee Trink is the guy who claims he's still a co-founder of FaZe, the pro-Israel guy. FaZe Esports organization remains with GameSquare Holdings Inc., which acquired the parent company of FaZe for $17 million in 2023. So here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. FaZe went through a lot of structural issues, okay? FaZe went through a lot of structural issues. They were always, it was always hype and aura, right? And one of the things that happened leading up to the 2022 like SPAC, where they did like a mini IPO, like not a real full blown IPO, but basically like when they became tradable on the stock market, as Cecilia says, became a penny stock basically, was when there was a lot of issues with the corporate with the corporate side, right? And what's really interesting about this is that, I mean, obviously the fucking the aura and hype around capital investment into media companies and even like gaming companies like this one is always going to be unsustainable, right? A SPAC is a special purpose acquisition company. It's basically like an IPO, but for a company that doesn't have the bare bones to make it IPO. It's kind of like that. I'm explaining it in a very reductive way, but here's the thing, okay? As far as like the revenue generation, that's the only thing. That's the only thing people care about on the company side, on the corporate side. They care about profits. That's the whole purpose of this, right? If your goal is to generate revenue, enough revenue that you get a return on your investment, yeah, you're gonna have shady business practices and whatnot. But because the company basically fell apart, and had this like revitalization, right? Yeah, SPACs tumbling down. Share companies that have gone public via SPAC lost half of their value. Obviously, I mean, it's normal. It happens all the time. But this was the 2022 SPACs graph when FaZe went public, and it basically price went from like 80 to 40, right? It got sliced in half. I'm not going to dive further into SPACs in general, okay? But basically, the company didn't have anything to justify its price point, okay? To justify its stock prices. They weren't generating revenue. And on the corporate side, you know, all the aura and hype only takes you so far. Another great example of this was with Vice, for example. Shane Smith is one of the OGs at duping investors, right? Really beefing up your valuation without actually having anything to show for it. Vice was popping at the time when I was at the Young Turks. I remember it very clearly. And he had a swift exit after he sold it off like a pump and dump, basically. Sold it off for like, $1 billion evaluation. And Vice at its peak was seen as a more valuable media company than the New York Times was, right? And it's happened. This kind of shit has happened many times over, right? So where are they at now? I mean, Vice went functionally insolvent, but they're still trying to. They still got assets, so they're still trying to work on it. But yeah, a lot of these companies, they get big corporate investors, or sometimes even worse, like VCs, get involved, and VCs just want to pump up the stock price and then exit or sell it for scraps, right? They have no investment in the product. This is just how finance capital works. There's no real investment in your output. There's no real interest in like what kind of product that you're putting out there. There's none of that. It's just about making money, moving numbers on a fucking leaderboard. Okay. So that's just how private equity works. That's how, that's how VCs work. But for a lot of you guys, you only see like the personality side of it. You only see the labor side of it. You only see the on-camera talent side of it. So you don't really think about all this background shit, right? So FaZe was in the dumps as a not only as a stock, as a asset that people were trading around in the stock market, but it also was in the dumps as far as like its clout and its aura, because there were a lot of shakeups taking place on the management side of FaZe. And then FaZe Banks came in, and I think he like tried to rebuy FaZe, right? With a bunch of other investors, including with the DraftKings owner, Kalish. And they went in, and they did definitely put a lot of money into it, for sure. They did put a lot of money into it. I don't know if the numbers that they're speaking on are real. Because Banks was saying he put like $40 million into it. I don't know if that's the case. That's an insane amount of money. I don't know how you are that wasteful. And Kalish is the DraftKings guy who has no reason to lie, right? He got on a call with Ludwig, Aiden Ross, and Mr. Beast. Yeah, I know. I was aware of it at the time as well. I was, not as involved as those guys were, but I was aware that this was like a real, this was a real buyout opportunity. In any case, the new FaZe roster came out from that, and it was actually very good. And these guys were much smaller at the time, Jason, Ronaldo, Lacey, Silky. Your Rage was also already in and out at that point, so he came before them. And then Adapt had always been a FaZe content creator for 14 years. And holy shit, still talking about it? Brother, this is literally on Bloomberg News. Like, this is a fucking newsworthy story to talk about, especially from the... like, I know you're like, oh, why are we talking about FaZe? But like, this is on fucking Bloomberg, Calm down. This is news, okay? This is newsworthy. I know you are, I know you're above it all. You're an adult and you hate even learning about this stuff and you don't want to hear about this stuff at all. But it's an interesting story to cover. And it's also a labor dispute, okay? So they brought in this new talent, and I don't know how much money they put into it, but we're obviously going to be talking about FaZe Banks' video on this as well, because he did like a 12-minute rant on this, and there was a lot of drama. There was a lot of additional drama in the response, because Blackboy Max came out. He had left FaZe before anyone else did yesterday, and he came out and he talked about like why he had left FaZe, but obviously he has a non-disparagement clause pretty clearly, because there's certain things he can't say, but he can actually like at least allude to or point to other people that also worked in FaZe, including his assistant, who is also his cousin, that was talking about like the level of control that these guys had over everything that they were doing, and also the higher demands that they had in terms of revenue from the content creators that were generating revenue. So I think part of the problem here is that these guys put some investments in, not exactly certain as to how big those investments were, right? Because there's a lot of numbers floating around. But also, regardless of those investments, like they did not have an understanding of, like what kind of revenue they were going to be able to generate off of these content creators. Because FaZe as a content group puts in more investment into their content creators than like Loaded does, because Loaded is just simply an agency. Okay? To explain this to you, there are a lot of agencies, right? There's like agencies in Hollywood, for example, WME, UTA, CAA. These are the top three. The big three agencies. They have talent from every, they have talent from every different field, musicians, models, actors, and even online content creators. Okay. And what these agencies do, and I'm signed with WME for those of you who don't know, even though we don't really do too much, and they don't really do too much for me, let's be real, because I mostly just nuke all of the inbound requests coming from advertisers. But for normal people, what these guys are supposed to do is go out there and sell their talent, and they take 10% of whatever they sell. If they sell a $100,000 ad campaign, they get $10,000. Okay? And that's how it goes. Okay? That's how it goes. For managers, it's a little different. Managers don't have any sort of like legal binding to what percentage they can take from the things that they're selling. Managers can also get executive producer credits as well. Managers can even justify higher percentages. In a lot of instances, managers will also take like 20%, something along those lines. But the industry standard, at least in the beginning, was 10%. But the difference is, in this situation, it's not. In this situation, if FaZe's only revenue, like if FaZe as a company is only generating revenue off of selling the FaZe Clan inventory, right? If they're only generating revenue off of like selling sponsorship deals, right? Whether it be like pepperoni Totinos, microwavable FaZe Clan, pizza bagels or whatever, right? Then they're only going to get 10% or maybe a higher percentage off of those ads they're selling. But if that's not enough, if you're not generating enough revenue off of that to sustain the company, especially if you're like dumping a lot of money into this and you have a lot of people that you're paying on the FaZe Clan organization side, right? Whether it be the investors that are demanding higher returns or whether it be the actual background staff that works to make the organization operate in some capacity, right? Then the 10% that they're getting off of the sponsorships that they're selling is not going to fucking work. It's not going to keep them afloat. This is part of the reason why I think the agency structure that exists is kind of outdated. Either you have to be a completely separate agency in the same way that like Loaded is, right? And you're not going to make investments into the people that you are, into the people that you're actually, selling inventory on. And you're just simply going to respond to inbound requests, or you're going to go out there and get like new, you're going to go out there and get, what do you call it? You're going to go out there and get new advertisers for these content creators, or you just have to figure out a different way to generate revenue. And I suspect that for FaZe, the organization, the way that they wanted to justify the initial investment that they made into these content creators was demanding a higher percentage of the revenue that they were generating, right? Demanding a higher percentage of the revenue that they were generating on their own streams, especially. And that's when it gets tricky. I have no evidence that that was the demand, for the record, and Cecilia does not make that inference either, but it could potentially be the case. Okay? And obviously, if you demand more revenue that they themselves are generating, the content creators themselves are generating, then they're going to say, nah, I'm not going to fucking do that. Because the reality of the matter is these content creators actually don't need FaZe. FaZe needs them. Okay? And therein lies the problem. So with that information in mind, let's take a look at what Brother Banks had to say.
Merry Christmas from Banks, formerly known as FaZe Banks. What a fucking terrible day.
What a
terrible year. I left FaZe 5 months ago. And this wasn't for a narrative. This wasn't for the camera. This wasn't for Twitter. This was very, very real. It was off the heels of some Twitter drama, and the boys were, getting blown up in their comms and in their chats. And as we all know, in this world, wacky, strange world of streaming, that's really all that matters. These streamers, all of them, every last one of them, are forced to appeal to their comms and their chats and narratives on Twitter. And if they don't, they lose viewers. If they don't, they take a hit financially to their career. And this has a huge effect on who their friends are, who they're in relationships with, all of it, everything. The way they treat each other online is completely 100% based and rooted in the feedback that they get in real time from chats and comms. So again, as somebody, an old man, 34 years old, you guys never let me forget it.
Okay, it's not that old, man. Chill. There are some of us who are also 34 years old. What? This is why people don't think you're a credible source of information. Like, I want to be respectful about it and all, but you're acting like the Lich King came back to life from the Ice Crown Citadel to rule Azeroth and make the world into a hellhole when this is literally one of the biggest nothing burgers that nobody really even cares about. Like, stay on the serious topics or just grow up. It's that simple. HasanAbi, it's that simple. Surprised you don't care enough. I guess you don't think about Anion? What? I'm so confused. Did you give me, you said stay on topic? You're making it seem like this is, insert WoW lore? What the fuck?
Who no longer makes content, who doesn't have a stream, who doesn't have his own platform. It's impossible for me to create a narrative or control my narrative or really respond. Not that I really give a fuck to anyways, but yeah, all this drama is created and we get on a call 5 months ago and the guys are like, listen, we're over the drama. We think it's best if you just like publicly step down from FaZe just to cool down the drama online. I reacted very emotionally to this. I was obviously took it very personally and was offended because again, I used my entire network, every dollar that I've ever made, everything that I've ever had, this brand that I built, I used all of it as leverage to start these guys as a content group and to kick this shit off with the sole goal and intent to bring FaZe back to the top, which we did. We did that all collectively. Over the last 2 years, FaZe has won Org of the Year twice. And yeah, I was the first guy in the room. These guys would have never lived in a house together if it wasn't for me. These guys are all at minimum 10 times the size in terms of audience and platform now as before they joined FaZe. These guys have all made millions and millions and millions of dollars in the last 2 years, and none of them could ever dispute the fact. Max just said it himself on his stream. Joining FaZe was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. I've heard that from Lacey. I've heard it from Silky. I've heard it from Jason. I've heard it from Ron. I've heard it from Adapt. I've heard it from every single person that's ever joined FaZe. Specifically these guys. And I'm here to tell you, as former FaZe Banks, this was one of the worst decisions I've ever made in my entire life.
So, there is some, like joining FaZe and like creating a content group, going under the banner of FaZe was a mutually beneficial situation because FaZe was in the shitter as a brand, right? And all of the new talent that they brought on, who were obviously very talented in their own way, was able to revitalize the brand. But it's crazy to say that it was because of FaZe that these guys were able to pop off. Like, it was their own talent, right? It was their own talent. It was their own timing, comedic timing. It was their own entertainment that they were creating. It was the friendships that they made. Like, it's not like these guys were tiny content creators either before they joined FaZe. They were up there. They were nowhere near as big as they are now, but they were certainly having a blow up. Yeah, Jason had 9K average viewers before FaZe because he was collabing with Cutie and others, Law, so he was already big. Ron had also, like, these guys had basically mastered the like the TikTok clip feeding back to your live stream meta even before they joined FaZe, right? So you're just gonna glaze them? What? First of all, yes, I am gonna glaze them. I think they did a great job, and I've always said that they've done a great job, and I will continue saying that. So yeah. Jason averaged 3K. He met Cutie after FaZe. No, that's not true. Jason did not meet Cutie after FaZe. You're fucking wrong. Cutie Cinderella literally had Jason the Ween on to do Feliz Navidad in her like Christmas stream 2 fucking years ago. So no, you're just wrong. And this isn't even like lore in general. Okay, this is just things that I personally fucking experienced with my friends and coworkers and peers. So it's kind of funny to come here and tell me this shit. That was before he ever got on FaZe. So in any case, you don't watch Twitch though. I don't know. I trust your information. That's true. I don't really watch Twitch. So you're not wrong about that, but I do know these people. So, oh my God, this guy's still complaining about the fucking the fact that I'm still covering this. Anyway, so they brought these guys who were already building their own audiences, who already had a pretty decent understanding how to make content, right? And you know, it was the connective tissue. Like being under the FaZe banner certainly brought them together. So there was definitely some investment there. Okay? There was definitely some investment there. But to say that this was just because of FaZe would be wrong. Okay? It was mutually beneficial for sure. But at the end of the day, FaZe as an organization needed the talent more than the talent needed FaZe. And that's precisely what has happened now. That now they have no talent left because they all left one by one at the same time. And that's the reason why this is newsworthy. And I think the problem here, is the additional demands that they were making on the organization side in order to justify the revenues that they were not generating. So they wanted to generate those revenues off of the content creators and the revenues that they were generating themselves, right? Like their subscriptions, for example. And when you actually demand money from the individual content creators, like from their own subscriptions or from their own revenue that they're generating on their YouTube pages or their TikTok or whatever the fuck, it's just not going to work. Of course, they're going to be like, nah, that's not happening. Okay? And I think that ultimately, this is what it comes down to. Look, see, he says these guys had free housing, free filmers and staff, all FaZe channels, 0% income shared. Their money and platforms all skyrocketed after meeting me, but I'm the bad guy. None of it makes sense. And like I said above, I'm going to get into all the details tomorrow. The thing is, like, even if you actually hired the initial cameraman and stuff, right? Even if you hired the initial cameraman and stuff, this is one of the only parts of a labor corporate structure that genuinely benefits the labor side, because the labor side has way more salience and is in front of people. So partially the reason why I'm talking about this is because you can't have a similar issue like this in a regular workplace where people immediately understand, because they don't have a fucking parasocial relationship with like the delivery drivers, okay, that are delivering your fucking packages. But they do have a parasocial relationship with the content creators. So they automatically understand that FaZe is nothing without the content creators. They're not as replaceable as your bosses in your regular ass fucking workplace will have you feel like you are replaceable. Okay? Then what is the point of FaZe? Well, therein lies the issue. Okay? Therein lies that is the problem in and of itself. They didn't actually come in and be the connective tissue and maybe make more reasonable. Yeah, he's doing a stream today. How does free housing go together with PBM having to pay $20K a month for the guest house? Exactly. They didn't, for the new talent that they brought on, if they had spent less money, okay, and had a better revenue share agreement from the start, I think this wouldn't be as big as an issue. But they went in, they dumped a boatload of money, as they usually do, and I think they wanted more. They wanted more in return for that initial upfront investment they made into like the expensive house that they got for everybody, for example, right?
I gave up my entire adult life to this. I have put myself in millions and millions and millions of dollars in debt. I have never made not one singular dollar outside of my
FaZe boys are not workers. No, in this structure, they absolutely are. What do you mean? If the company's output is revenue generated off of advertisement that they're selling on the fucking streams, then yeah, they are the people that are actually doing the labor. They're technically doing the labor. I know it doesn't sound like a regular structure, but in entertainment, this is how it works.
salary via FaZe. Not selling it, not buying it, raising money. I've just put myself further and further in debt. Yeah.
Do you believe this, that he made $0? I have no idea. I don't know, because I feel like he must have exited, right? Like if he sold his shares, if he sold his like ownership stake in the company, then he did exit and they paid him for it. So I don't know how he's saying like I made $0 off of it. I think what's really interesting about this conversation, what confuses me about this conversation is how he's saying like, oh, I dumped 40 million into this and then I got nothing in return, even though he like owned a significant percentage of the company, right? But what I don't understand is like how you made I mean, maybe he made zero profit, maybe he lost money in the process. I don't know. I don't fully comprehend this at all.
Singular dollar outside of my salary via FaZe. Not selling it, not buying it, raising money. I've just put myself further and further in debt. Yeah, I think FaZe to acquire and all the costs.
It's like the iDubbbz Creator Clash. Why are all creator events so poorly managed? I think it's because these kinds of things are incredibly difficult to put together in general. And that's why there is a need for professionals who specifically make this kind of stuff work. When you have content creators or former content creators getting into the managerial side of things, it makes things way more difficult to put together. Like it's just this is what I explain to people all the time. Whenever motherfuckers go, why don't you start your own news company? Why don't you start your own media empire? And I'm like, that's not what I'm good at. Okay. I know my fucking limitations. And this is the problem. I'm not ever going to be in a managerial position. I don't want to do that. Okay. I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I'm not good at that. And this is part of the reason why, even though I had opportunities to get even like ownership stakes in other orgs similar to this, I have said no over and over again. Even when people have asked me like, oh, do you want to co-found an organization? Or if you want to join an organization, I've always said no. I've said no to joining an organization as a content creator because I don't think it's valuable for someone like myself. It can be valuable for others, especially smaller content creators who are just starting their careers, right? But I've also said no to the ownership side of things as well, because it's just, it's complicated. It's like a difficult, it's a job in and of itself, and it's not within my skill set. Okay.
Costs for these guys' careers over the last 2 years, I think ballpark 40 million bucks. And I think probably collectively these guys have had to have probably made like 20 million in the last 2 years collectively, I would guess. And not $1 of that 20 million has ever gone back to FaZe. Never mind me. Even if it did ever go back to FaZe, that shit, it's not mine. And I just fucking can't believe it. I can't believe I'm in this position now where people are calling for my head. People are wishing for my death. People are telling me I ruined FaZe. I ruined FaZe, guys. I ruined it. When I have had not one say in anything that's gone on in the last 5 months, and I set all this shit in motion in the first place. I ruined it. I ruined it. There's 5, 6 individuals who are multimillionaires and have beautiful careers ahead, and God bless you, and I wish you guys the best, and I ruined it.
Yeah, streamers that are at the top make lots of money largely because streaming has very little overhead. Exactly. Okay, exactly. It's not like as a streamer, you can literally just strap a camera onto your fucking PlayStation, and if you've got something unique that people want to tune into, you can literally, with this virtually zero overhead, continue to generate content. So the entry point into this industry is non-existent pretty much. It's just you need to have free time. You need to have a working internet connection. That's pretty much it. And that is precisely the reason why, in terms of like the labor negotiating power here, the labor has all the fucking leverage. Unlike any other sector, you have all the leverage. So, of course, when a company goes in and tries to do corporate shit, they're going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? For example, if someone comes in and says, I need you to, if the company comes in, FaZe, let's say, in this hypothetical, comes in and says, I need you to pump this cryptocurrency, right? I'm using this as a pure hypothetical. The content creators themselves can literally just turn around and say, no, I don't want to fucking do that. And you don't really have any say in this process. As opposed to in a normal work structure, if your boss tells you you got to do something, you got to fucking do it, right? You just have to do it. You have no, especially in the absence of a labor union, you have no way of saying no to your bosses, right? Same goes for even like gambling advertisers, shit like that. I mean, they were partially owned by DraftKings. I suspect that there was also a lot of like DraftKings sponsorships that were coming in as well. They wanted to use the existing audience, the inventory, in this case is the eyeballs that these guys are getting, right? To farm, potentially like advertisement opportunities for DraftKings or maybe other like, gambling sponsors and whatnot. If they say no to that from the corporation side, if the corporation doesn't give a fuck about the ethics of it all or the content that might get put out as a consequence of this, from the corporation side, that's like potentially millions of dollars of revenue that these guys are saying no to. They're going to say, the fuck do you mean you're saying no to $1 million? Get to work. But because of the structure that currently exists, where the leverage is favoring the workers in this industry as opposed to every other industry, because of how low the barrier of entry is to streaming, and how much the streaming is almost entirely reliant on the content creators and their attitudes and their willingness to make content or not. And the audience that they have cultivated and the parasocial relationships that they've cultivated with their own audiences, you can't really fuck around and demand more.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is, if we went in a time machine 2 years back and I decided to never try to fix this FaZe shit, I'd be much better off. I'd have more money and these kids would just be doing what they were doing before. It's hard for me to sit here and take that. It really is. And I plan on going live tomorrow or the next day at some point in the future and really kind of just laying it all out. A to Z, start to finish, the entire 15-year history of this, specifically the last 2 years, specifically the behind-the-scenes shit.
Yeah, here, this is a great example. It feels like a restaurant owner complaining about paying for their waitstaff uniforms, name tags, and break room, and still not getting any of their tips. Exactly. In this situation, it's like saying, hey, in this situation, it's literally telling the waitstaff, like, no, you got to give me a higher percentage of the tips that you're making, because we're just not, we're on the verge of insolvency. We're about to go bankrupt. Banks sounds like a restaurant owner complaining about paying their waitresses uniforms, work shoes, and break room, and is sour that he's not getting any of their tips. Exactly. In this situation, that is a pretty solid analogy. The difference, however, is that, unfortunately, under capitalism, your worth to your bosses when they are putting a contract together, especially in the absence of unions, is measured on your replaceability, right? So when times are tough, brother, I love you, but you can't say streaming isn't the same as other workplaces and use comparisons to it. No, oh my God. As far as output goes, they are the ones who are creating the fucking value, okay? The streamers in this situation would be the workers. The corporation in this situation would be FaZe, okay? God damn. I'm looking at it from a pure labor structure Okay? Labor versus capital. Especially because this is obviously something that a lot of people are tuning into, is something that a lot of people are invested in. Okay? A lot of young people are invested in this story. So I'm trying to explain I'm trying to explain how labor works in the adult world by using an example that a lot of kids are actually tuning into, okay? A lot of kids have a lot of investment in. Sorry, House, that doesn't apply to you. Streamers don't produce anything. I'm going to fucking produce something, and it's going to shock the world if you keep fucking talking like this in my chat. In any case, brother, I love you, but don't apply Marxism to streaming. Oh my fucking God. Every time we have a conversation about players' contracts with players' unions in the NFL or players' unions in the NBA, everybody goes, I don't understand. Socialism is about being poor. These guys are really rich. So obviously, how can you apply a proletarian versus capital perspective for basketball players? They make a lot of money. Like, you unironically end up doing the same thing that dumbass, stupid fucking reactionary right-wingers do, okay? If there's a guy making $1 million, there's someone who owns that person who's making $1 billion, okay? Stop getting caught up in the fucking aesthetics of the conversation. Oh my Lord. It's the same principle behind like why unions are necessary in SAG-AFTRA, okay? You're not doing fucking praxis by being an annoying dumb fuck in this goddamn chat. Stop. A lot of you are so invested in the dumbest right-wing, anti-communist, anti-socialist ideological forms of labor, okay? You just look at it simply as like, oh no, if you work in the coal mines, that's a real job. If you're gay and you work at Starbucks, that's not a real wage laborer, okay? Shut up. There is no fucking there is no upper limit to wage labor. It doesn't work that way, okay? There is no like, oh, when you make over a certain amount of money in your contract as a wage laborer, you're no longer a fucking wage laborer. It doesn't work that way, okay? You're still, if your work is making someone else money, you're still a wage laborer. It's pretty basic. Okay? If what you are doing, whether you find it to be gay, woke, lame, not necessary, stupid, doesn't matter. If someone is making money off of you fucking clicking go live every day, then yeah, no matter how much money you're making, no matter how much autonomy you have over it, no matter how much control you have over how much money you're making, there's still someone else making money off of you. And at which point you are still engaging in a wage labor, okay? Like, they are legit, in this story, they are the ones who are engaging in the labor, okay? How much money they make, or even how much autonomy they have in this process, is irrelevant. And that is precisely the reason why I'm covering it. Okay? And there are obviously people who are working under these people as well. So in a way, they are small business owners, owned and operated by the person. Okay? But there are still people that they hire in the process. And I think initially, FaZe was the one who had hired all of the people that were working on the background. And because of that upfront investment, they wanted more. They were like, because of this upfront investment that we made with like the camera people and like the editors and, you know, people that were pumping, the social media managers and all this stuff, that all played a big role in you guys blowing the fuck up, and now you have to pay us back. Okay? You know, the assistants, the managers, and whatnot. And that, oh, yeah. What happened? What happened? Hello? Oh no. Oh no, Kaya. Hello. 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 Oh yeah, you like that, don't you? Okay. So, where was I? All right, let's keep going.
In the dynamic between all the kids in the back end, because I just watched some clips from this Black Boy Max stream where he's playing a laugh track over my tweet, and it's like, Max, I know we.
This was what like pissed him off a lot. He didn't even like read the tweet, but the tweet was, I have nothing to do with what's going on in FaZe Clan right now. I left 4 months ago and I moved on with my life. Unfortunate to see. Wishing everyone involved the best. If there's anything I could do to help, I'm here. Nobody loves FaZe more than me. Yeah, streamers don't produce anything of value while watching a streamer and being so involved. You have to chirp and chat. What idiots people are. I know. It's entertainment. I mean, it's not like productive in the sense that like we're not building fucking we're not putting out steel at the steel mill, okay? And yes, it is not necessary, okay? The world would move on without entertainment. Just like what I do is news and commentary and also entertainment, and the world would be perfectly fine without me. As a matter of fact, a lot of people would probably lose a lot of money if I wasn't around all the fucking haters that make a shit ton of money off of this, the fuck Hasan content. But ultimately, they are still generating value for someone else.
We've had like our individual differences, and I know I haven't really seen eye to eye with a lot of the talent because truthfully and honestly, I find you guys all to be incredibly ungrateful. I find you guys all to have insane egos, and I think it's disgusting and makes me sick to my stomach that your guys' relationships with each other.
He got real Toronto here. Sick to my stomach, fam.
And with every other streamer, and your community included, is so incredibly fake. You guys are the best actors on planet Earth, and you've made a complete career out of all of it. Max. This part I don't believe. I think he got emotional and I think he got mad. And I think he just wanted to like throw a little bit of a fucking grenade into the convo to invite suspicion. But obviously, like, I don't think people are going to believe that regardless. But I think this was not correct. Also, some of the older stuff that he brought up, as far as like when people weren't friendly with one another initially, that part is true, right? Here, like when they first began, when they first were building FaZe, like the new FaZe. Can somebody find the clip of Max saying that he used to think that Ron and Lacey were cringe before he joined, but now they're friends?
To make this house work, Jason, Ron, and Lacey got to live here too. K-San was saying this. I'm like, I was like, fuck it.
You said no to them?
No.
Too?
I was like, fuck it. Because I'm not going to lie. I always say this.
Silky?
Yeah, Silky said no. Silky said no. Silky said no.
So y'all didn't want to live with any of us?
I wanted to live with the four, and I was like, yo, just get him a house like right next to us, bro.
Yeah, that's when they.
That's what I was trying to push for, but they didn't want to live in Florida.
Yeah. So look. Now Ron, I always knew you, and Jason, I always knew you. So Lacey, I was just like, fuck it. I wasn't fond of Lacey at first because I thought it was just some annoying white fat kid who ordered McDonald's. Those are the clips I seen. So I was like, what the fuck? They were saying,
In my honest opinion, the best comparison is actors seems to have very similar dynamics, although with more powerful organizations. No. Yes and no. Yes, because like obviously the talent drives box office numbers, or at least used to back in the day. But no, because he said fat kid. Chatters. Not, he didn't say the slur you think he said. Okay. But the thing that's different is that you can't really make a whole ass movie. You can't really make a whole ass movie with just actors. Okay. Whereas you can actually make like the replaceability factor with the low barrier of entry into making the same exact content that you're making in the realm of Twitch streaming, in the realm of streaming on the internet, makes it so that makes it much more difficult to control. If anything, the industry that's actually very good at offering a lot of value to young talent and trapping them in the worst contracts is music. If you want to actually compare it, because like you can be a fucking musician on your own. Okay. But because the record labels basically own everything and make it virtually impossible for any musician to be independent, they can be as abusive as they want to. And their contracts are, if you guys know anything about record labels, they are the most abusive contracts out there. Okay. Music probably is the most similar comparison to Twitch streaming in that regard, where musicians have deep parasocial relationships they cultivate with their fan bases. It's a very personal relationship that a lot of people have with their favorite musicians. Record labels basically own everything, though. They own the platforms. They own virtually every aspect of creating this product, and therefore they can trap you in a 360 deal, especially if they pluck you from nothingness and give you a bunch of upfront investment and then consistently farm revenue from you for the rest of your fucking life. Okay? That's how it works. Technically, you could literally be a musician on your own. All you need is all you need is your voice. All you need is your personality. All you need is your skills in writing a song. All you need is maybe, an understanding of how to produce music. But while that in and of itself, especially with how all of these tools are now readily available to you in terms of like production and stuff like that, there is, as long as you have, recording equipment, all this stuff, you could technically try and be a musician on your own, but it's much more difficult. Okay. Although DIY is more accessible than ever, they basically own every aspect of getting you on charts, and putting you up with like the best producers and crafting a narrative, crafting a marketing campaign, putting you in venues and stuff like that. And that's the reason why they can still continuously justify these hyper exploitative contracts on musicians, right? In the streaming space, they don't actually have this level of control, and therefore they can't do this level of exploitation to streamers in general. Okay? That's it. That's it. Because streaming is a relatively new industry, and they don't own, like a lot of these organizations don't own the platforms that you need to go to be able to stream yet. It might happen in the future, or like Amazon might try to do its own version of like an MCN or something in order to generate even more revenue off of people. And at that point, it would be quite difficult for a lot of newcomers to survive in that realm without having to join, BeastTube or, FaZe Amazon or whatever the fuck, right? But yeah, contracts with like gambling built in, all this shit. Do whatever the fuck you want to do. But basically, basically they don't have this level of control over the people that make the content yet. And that's the reason why these sorts of issues are happening.
These are your boys, but these are the same guys that said they fucking hated your guts after you left. And, you know, you're the program and you have an ego the size, you think you're Travis Scott and this and that. And also, like Max, multiple conversations about how Ron's content's cringe and you guys didn't fuck with the dap. None of you guys fucked with Lacey or Jason in the beginning. You guys didn't want these guys to live any.
Let's be real. Nothing a Twitch streamer makes comes close to even the worst music law. Oh my fucking God. Yes, dude, I know. The value of labor, especially in the entertainment side, is about what you personally think it is. You're right. It has nothing to do with like whether or not you are generating revenue for someone else. It's not real if I don't care about it. Like, for example, the only real labor in my mind, because I'm the biggest leftist of all time, in my mind, the only real labor is coal miners. Okay? It's coal miners. Coal miners are the only actual people that are working because they're working and they're getting black lung and they're working in horrible conditions. And that's the only real labor. Like, for example, I don't like Starbucks. I don't go to Starbucks. And therefore, people that work at fucking Starbucks, they're not real laborers. Even though they have wages, even though they're working for a mega corporation that's generating a lot of value off of their labor, I don't personally think that's valid because I don't like them. They're gay. They're woke. I don't like Starbucks workers, so they're not real work. That's how we judge this stuff, okay? Leftistly. It's so fucking stupid. This is not how it works, okay? That's not how... This is not judged off of whether or not you say so or whether or not you like their output. I don't even disagree with you. I think by and large, including what I fucking do, like streaming is not a real job. I've always said this. I've always maintained this position. We're unimaginably fortunate individuals. We literally are winning the lottery every single fucking day. Okay? Every single day. And I try to do my very best to make sure that I use that privilege for good, to expand people's consciousness, to try to educate people to the best of my ability, use my privilege for you know, broad awareness initiatives and things like that, and even fundraising initiatives. Having said that, okay, in terms of like somebody making money off of you, okay, it is it is labor in that regard. Okay? To enrichen yourself, you're right. To enrichen myself, you did it. Yeah.
Anywhere near you, you barely wanted to share a brand with them. But FaZe was going to fund a Miami house for you, Rage, Silky, and Hasan. So fuck it. We'll take what we can get. And then it all worked. And we forced this relationship. And I was called a fucking retard then. And I was told then I was ruining FaZe. And now 2 years later, it wound up being the best thing that ever happened. So you understand why I'm sitting here and I'm frustrated. I would hope anyone watching could sit here and understand why I would be frustrated while a fucking entire hate mob is coming after me on fucking Christmas, my first Christmas without my mom, when all I've ever fucking wanted to do is help FaZe be successful. That's all I've ever wanted to do. That's the only intent. Where's the money? I'm this fucking guy who's trying to take everything from everybody. Where is it? Then why the fuck am I millions of dollars in debt? Where is it? It's in Blackboy Max's bank account. It's in fucking Silky's bank account. It's in Jason, Ronaldo, Lacey's bank account.
See, this is what I mean. It's like, this is wrong. Okay. I don't, you know, I don't agree with Brother Banks on this at all. He's saying I made these guys and they generated millions and millions of dollars, but because they're streamers, they got to keep that revenue. And it's like, yeah, because those are their subscriptions. Those are their, you know, advertising revenue that they're getting when they fucking click running an ad, which, by the way, many of you might not know because this is the Piker Broadcasting Service and we don't run any ads around these parts. And if you actually want to support the show, you can subscribe. The Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, the viewers, for you, the viewers. It's an ad-free experience, unlike anywhere else you can go on the internet. Let's be fucking real. And there will be no cryptocurrency scams or anything of that sort on this. And there will be no gambling ads in general here as well. But there is this dynamic here of like friendship versus business. And I think that's what muddies the waters a little bit. Zylax, thank you for the 50 open presents. Thank you for the 100 gifted subs. There I go again, enriching myself with your voluntary subscriptions. If you want to, you can subscribe. There are obviously some benefits to it, like you can rewind the broadcast if you want to on the desktop. If you are subscribed, you can send me links, but that's pretty much it, okay? I think the main problem with this discourse is that you talk about how much money y'all streamers make. When its success is measured with clout, there's no other workforce like it. Musicians need talent, actors too. There are some talentless streamers, most of your haters, that are extremely successful because of clout. No, there are also musicians that you might not consider to be fucking talented at all. It's entertainment. I think you're misunderstanding. Clout is money, okay? Relevance and clout and eyeballs that you get turns into money in the streaming space. Because if you're clicking the run an ad button on your Twitch stream, for example, if you have 10 people, you're only getting 10 cents. If you have 1,000 people, you're getting 1,000 people's worth of ad dollars. If you have 100,000 people watching, in that situation, when you click ad, you're going to get 100,000x that, okay? And music is also subjective. Every form of entertainment is subjective, which means that some people are just not going to like it, okay? But there are plenty who do. There are plenty of Twitch streamers who I don't tune into. I don't really understand what they offer, what kind of value they offer at all. Is not for me, right? And I'm willing to bet that a fuck ton of people would say the same about me, as a matter of fact. Ironically enough, if you left this stream and went to anyone else's streams and you asked them like, oh, well, what kind of value does I can't even talk. What kind of value does Hasan bring? They would say nothing. Nothing at all. Do you understand? There are more people who think I bring no fucking value than there are those who believe that I bring value, okay? Let's be real. For most people, for most other content creators in this sphere, they go, we're here for entertainment. What's entertaining about fucking talking about the news all the time? You're just yapping. You don't play video games. You just yap, and they have no way of conceptualizing. They have no way of conceptualizing what this is, like news commentary is. They just see it as like drama that invites unwelcome attention. So wake up. That's the reason why many of these people who aren't adults themselves look to what I do and look to Asmongold and think we're doing the same shit. Okay? So, snap out of your own bubble for a second. Anyway. You can make this argument about anything, though. Motorcycles are worthless to me. No, I know. That's why it's a stupid argument to make. I agree. Was it Engels who said that human hands and its relationship to any material that generates commodity traded for currency is labor, no matter how small? Why are chatters like this? Because a lot of people in the United States of America, whether they think they are completely fucking, whether they think they have a decent understanding of socialism, unironically still have capitalist dogmatic thought and the brain rot that comes along with it. This is partially the reason why they think the broker you are, the more socialist you are, and the richer you are, the less socialist you are. Okay? That's the issue.
I wish this never happened. I wish that I never did any of this. And they'll all still tell you this was the best decision they ever made in their life. I'm emotional and I'm passionate. I'm never going to apologize for that. Anything that I do, anything that I speak on, anything that I work on, any talent that I fuck with, anything that I touch, I will always be 100% 2 feet in. That's just who I am. And everything that I'm telling you guys right now is fucking straight facts. It's dead wrong, bro. This is unfair. It's unfair to drag me like this. It's unfair to pin me as some fucking horrible guy.
Why are you banning this guy? You'll never cover Epstein because your millionaire friends are on the list? Like, obviously this person is just either the most insane person I've ever experienced in the chat, or they're memeing. Okay? In either case, it's content. Okay?
Again, the fact of the matter is, every single one of these guys has a bigger platform and an audience because they joined FaZe and met me, and has millions and millions of extra dollars because they met me. Whereas I, on the other hand, have lost years of my life.
Look, I'm telling you right now, this is completely incorrect. Okay? I'm sorry. Who knows where Jason would be and Ron would be at this point, and I'm sure that they would not be as popular as they are currently, okay? Because there is a lot of probability here, right? Luck plays a factor in this. But the idea that these guys' output would be dramatically different, or the levels that they reach would be nowhere near as like successful as they are if it wasn't for FaZe Clan bringing them together, is wrong. Especially because even if it wasn't FaZe, even if it wasn't called FaZe Clan, they could have just as easily found one another and decided to fucking rent out an apartment together and make content that way. Okay? Like trying to put a percentage on like what level of involvement you had, and then claiming as though, but they didn't do that. That's the point. Yes. The reason why I love this fucking story is because it is a perfect story to identify how much of a fucking capitalist brain rot you have in your mind, regardless of how long you've been a part of this community. Okay. This is the reason why capital owners say it's unfair to share bigger profits with the workforce, with the laborers. This is how they say it. They say, we made a bet on you. We made a bet on this business. We dumped a lot of upfront capital into this business. And that's why, of course, you're replaceable and you're going to shut the fuck up and do the work. And if we demand more of the earnings, if we demand more of your tips, for example, then you have to shut the fuck up and do it. And a lot of people, regardless of how socialist minded they might think they are, kind of fall into this trap no matter what happens. Okay? And by the way, chatter, I'm not like trying to dunk on you at all. Okay? I need you to understand. I'm not trying to dunk on you at all. Everybody does this because that is how hegemonic and overpowering capitalism is, where it is seen as a necessary part of our lives, our existence. Okay? But why isn't that argument valid? The reason why that argument is not valid is because, especially in the case of streaming, Jason could have been this successful or maybe even more successful, whether he was a part of FaZe or not. The notion that he had the FaZe brand associated with his name is not the reason why people tuned in. Okay? That's it. Why are you dunking on someone you're friends with? You create your own enemies, dude. First of all, I'm not even dunking on FaZe Banks, because the other side of this story, where there is validity, is that they did actually bring all these people together. Okay? They did. They brought these people together. They paid for a house. They didn't, at least until like recently, demand anything in exchange for that, as far as I understand. I don't know how truthful this side of the story is, right? Because obviously, if that was the case, and if these demands that FaZe as the organization was making was reasonable, then I don't think Adapt would have left, right? But what I take issue with is I'm a Twitch streamer, and as a streamer, when I see other people say, "Oh, we made you. I made you. This company made you." That's not correct. Okay? That's not correct at all. Because especially when it comes to streaming, right? It's such a personal relationship that you have with your audience that it's just silly to make that argument. You either have something or you don't, right? Like, we jokingly say this stuff, but like Cutie, one could make an argument that Cutie had more of a profound role, played a more profound role in Jason's development as a content creator than even FaZe did, right? Because in different parts of your career, going from like 100 viewers to 1,000 viewers is a big leap. Going from 0 viewers to 15 is the biggest leap, right? It's a major leap. But even then, that's still a stretch, right? No, that's a stretch. Exactly, it is. Because nobody technically makes you. It's who you are. It's who you are and what you want to accomplish that plays a role in your content. It's that simple. Okay? So they're all quitting FaZe because they did avaricious corporate stuff. I missed the important part of the segment. Yes. You're biased because you don't own an org. Do you own an org? Yes, I'm biased because I'm on the side of labor in every single fucking story, including in this one. The fuck? In this circumstance, I've known FaZe Banks for a lot longer than I've known Jason, okay? I've known FaZe Banks for even longer than I've known Adapt, for example. I should be biased in his direction, and yet I'm not letting my own personal feelings or my own personal opinions cloud my judgment in this, because I'm looking at this from a purely labor perspective, okay? Labor versus capital. And in that regard, of course I'm going to side with the people that are making the content itself. They put you on a podium to show, but the act is way more important. You can throw the act. Exactly. Because at the end of the day, if all of those guys collectively decided, I don't want to fucking stream tomorrow, then what kind of money is FaZe Clan making? Nothing. Okay? That's how it goes. You can play a role in the development of talent, and I'm sure FaZe did, right? Definitely. But the reality of the matter is the much larger share of responsibility in terms of all of the output still comes from the individual content creator.
To this shit, and am significantly worse off financially. Significantly. This has destroyed me. My whole life has been completely destroyed in the last 4 or 5 months, but nobody...
I'll be honest, though. I don't even know why FaZe Banks is related, or not even FaZe Banks, but Brother Banks is even related in this story, because I don't know enough of the details of what happened in the background. The first time I even saw someone respond or even bring up Brother Banks, not FaZe Banks, formerly known as FaZe Banks, now known as Brother Banks, FaZe Up, is because Blackboy Max played that laugh track over his tweet, and because he even tweeted about it in general. And then also on top of that, he came out with this statement.
Gives a fuck, because I don't have a Twitch chat, and I refuse to be one of the people to just do what you guys are telling me to do. I don't know, guys. This streaming shit is so fucking fried. It really is. The narratives, the clips, the fucking the appeal to comms and chat, and like the willingness to just fucking, you know, it's funny. Everybody looks at these streamers as guys.
Yeah, to your point about FaZe needing the creators, not a soul knows Jason is FaZe Ween. Yeah. I mean, one of the greatest examples of this is fucking Plaqueboy Max. Plaqueboy Max pulled the ripcord out before anyone else did. And at the time, he was getting like yelled at a bunch. Okay. And guess what? Did Plaqueboy Max die off into irrelevancy post FaZe? No. I'm the real Plaqueboy Max. I mean, he's still serving it up. That's it. That's all you need to fucking know. It's not how this works, you know? So if you were Banks and you made these guys millionaires, you wouldn't be mad if they didn't give you 20%? Brother, he didn't make them millionaires. That's the whole point. You think that. That's not how it fucking goes. What the fuck? It's like, can you imagine if Cenk literally every day was going on the Young Turks broadcast and constantly complaining that I'm not just giving him revenue every fucking day, being like, I made him. I gave him an opportunity. And to be fair, that is a more valid argument than even what Banks is making, because I literally did not have any fucking social media footprint whatsoever when I first started working at the Young Turks. I worked my way up through the fucking ranks. I was putting a lot of effort into free labor that I was giving the Young Turks at the time. Made all these different shows and shit. Shows were banging. Didn't have any fucking control over even I had control over my own editorial output, but I didn't have any IP control over the shows that I was making. And I wanted to make my own thing. But could you imagine if he was like, yeah, no, it's just, you know, I'm demanding I'm demanding 20% of the revenues because you would not be known. You would not be known if it wasn't for the Young Turks. That would be absurd. Everyone would understand that that is fucking absurd, right? I think. And I give a lot of credit, of course, as always, to Uncle Chunk Weigert and TYT. I do, of course. But it's literally like it's like when people will turn around and say stuff like, "Oh, like you understand how exploitative like reality TV show contracts are, for example, right? A lot of these reality TV show contracts." A lot of these reality TV show contracts will lock people into like generating revenue off of everything that they're doing, because these are like random people that they plucked off the street, right? In many instances. Nowadays it's a little bit different because they do lean heavily into like influencers and stuff. But reality TV producers will literally go, oh, we're making you fucking famous. And in the aftermath, even after you leave this reality TV show as a contestant, even if you lose, we are going to take money off of your earnings or your endorsements, your sponsorships. We're going to take a percentage off of that because we made you. That's ridiculous. Most people understand that's a fucking ridiculous way to operate. Okay? It's crazy. It's crazy how many people even in this community don't understand the pro-capitalist argument that they're leaning into in this situation, partially because streaming is like is worthless, and people see it understandably as like people with immense privilege that don't really do anything. People who just fucking click start streaming in the beginning of the day, and every single person would rather substitute places with someone like myself, regardless of the dark side of streaming or whatever, you know, because everyone else is climbing Mount Dick Suck every fucking day, and it's a much more treacherous climb than the privileged lifestyles that streamers have. It's true. It's true. More accurately, it'd be if you got mad at that Will, Cutie, and Hasan aren't giving you 20% of their stream revenue for having a podcast with you. It's just absurd. No disrespect to Brother Banks. I see why he's upset, but gotta call a spade a spade. Exactly. And it also doesn't make any sense. And it also doesn't really make a lot of sense because, like, do you demand 20% from Kaya for making her famous? Yeah, all the time. I know you say it's objective, but streaming truly isn't meritocratic because there's lots of morons out there. Like Nazis are out there making millions under the same model, and something about that just feels icky, but I guess not really a solution. I mean, if that's the market demand, if we're looking at it purely as a mode of entertainment, if that's the market demand, then they are fulfilling a market demand. That is it. You know, it's still work. I don't agree with it, and I think that kind of work shouldn't even exist. But it's still work in the way that we're talking about in the analysis that we're conducting here.
And people who have these massive audience and have influence over millions of people and can impose their opinions and their will on millions of people, but it's not true. It's the exact opposite. The traditional influencer is dead. These kids are the most heavily influenced people on the planet. They are puppets attached to millions of.
Also, even if he did, that's not how life works. You don't get to retroactively demand people pay you millions of contract. What people also don't understand is that Banks wasn't doing charity. He brought them together for a purpose, reviving FaZe. He gave them shit for free because of that. He got what he wanted. FaZe is popping again, and he's mad his gamble worked, and he didn't exploit them more while he could. I don't even know how much of that anger is coming from Brother Banks. I genuinely thought that this was just like the corporate side demanding more return for their initial upfront investment. But yeah, in that regard, you know, putting them in front of all these other like famous people and like setting up these collaboration opportunities, the upfront investment into like renting out fat houses and all this shit. Yes, that played a role in these guys blowing the fuck up. Okay. But at the end of the day, they were the ones who were blowing the fuck up. They were the ones who were blowing the fuck up. So I don't even understand how like if he already pulled out the ripcord and he exited, I don't even know what he's like mad about in this situation, because he already put the money in and then he pulled it out. Maybe he didn't get like everything he wanted to. I don't know.
Strings. And if their comms and their fucking chats say that the sky is red and they disagree and they say, no, chat, I think it's blue. I think it's blue. Once that fucking viewer number starts to fall off, once they start to see L's in their chat, once they start to see hate threads in their fucking comms, they switch up real quick, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about objective truth. It's the sky is red. I've been trying to talk to these guys for 4 or 5 months, and they don't give a fuck. All they care about is their stream, which is completely fine. I don't need them to give a fuck. I don't need anybody to pretend to care. I'm done pretending to care. But if I had 100,000 viewers, if my name was HasanAbi, they'd fucking be on my dick. They'd be welcoming me with open arms. I would have had a big fucking red comfy chair at the Streamer Awards to fucking, hey.
You must have never seen a Hasan chat? No, I don't think he, I mean, what he's saying is that like a lot of content creators are, they live and die by their audiences. Obviously I'm not one of them. I fucking yell at my audience all the goddamn time. And it does cause a lot of disdain for many people who have been long-term community members who get fucking really upset, really butthurt, and they leave and they become fucking lifelong haters and shit. He's basically saying like all these streamers are audience captured. I can't really speak on all of these new creators and whether they're audience captured or not. I think a lot of streamers are audience captured to a certain degree. It's not wrong, like for sure. I don't think it's there is some truth to it, especially but like non-directional streamers. Like if your job is like to be a people pleaser, if your job is to like generate a big audience and entertain them and stuff, like there is definitely a little bit more of leaning into whatever your fucking audience says about you. But like I think one of the greatest examples of these guys not being super audience captured is their fucking fan bases. There's plenty of these streamers whose fan bases actually fucking despise me, and they've never had an issue with like collaborating with someone like myself, for example. So if they were incredibly audience captured, then they probably would never do that. And you can say, Hasan, you have clout, right? I am still one of the largest content creators on this platform, but I do think that if that was the case, if that was the fucking case, like it's much easier to just say like fuck Hasan, as many people have done so in this sphere, in this industry, right? Did bro forget about Kayagate, Lamau? Yeah, bro did forget about it. You want to know why bro forgot about it? Because one, it was ridiculous to begin with, and two, I've collaborated with a fuck ton of people since then. That's the whole point that I'm making. FaZe fans hates your guts law. I don't think that's even the case. But there are plenty who don't. There are plenty who just only look at TikTok and don't really have any fucking any opinions that they have on politics, and they think I'm like, you know, some fucking random dickhead who's always covering drama or whatever. But it doesn't matter. Ultimately, regardless of what the fan bases say, if that was the case, then Adapt and I would never collab, for example. If that was the case, I wouldn't ever collab with Your Rage. If that was the case, I would never collab with Jason. So it's just they're not. I don't think they're that. I don't think they're that audience captured.
Come fuck with us, bro. Let's do a stream tomorrow. Like, that's just what it is. And you guys know that's what it is. And anybody arguing against that is just fucking completely lost. These relationships.
You have Jewish fans besides me? Brother, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm Jewish, but I fuck with you. Do you know how many fucking Jewish fans I have? Dummy. This is what I mean. Not only do I have hella Jewish fans, well, because you say crazy stuff about Israel. First of all, I don't say crazy stuff about Israel. I say correct stuff about Israel. Chatter, you're going to find out. You're going to be real shocked to find out. I have Jewish fans in Israel. Brother, Chatter said, as a Jew, all Jews have the same opinion. Do you agree with every single Jewish person you've ever met on every issue? If the answer is no, then, you know, you can probably understand that there are plenty of anti-Zionist Jews, for example. As a matter of fact, I would say that is, you know, a big part of what I try to instill in people is that, like, you can have a difference in opinion with the majority perspective, regardless of how much people try to pummel you with this propaganda. Yeah, I have Jewish fans in the Knesset. Dr. Ofer Kasif. I don't agree with Palestine, though, but I'm a fan of your content. You don't agree with Palestine? The fuck? Brother, you are in the minority here for that perspective, not because you're Jewish. You're in the minority amongst Jewish fans of mine as well, certainly. At least you recognize it exists? No.
Chips are fucking fraudulent. It's.
Do you have Filipino fans besides me? Get the fuck out of here. Are you kidding me? That's a silly ass question. I mean, I'm a servant of Swagapino supremacy, okay? Get the fuck out of here asking me silly ass questions like that. Pinoys don't fuck with HasanAbi? That's literally not true. Pinoys are the backbone. Pinoy gang is the backbone of this community. Also, the gays are the backbone of this community. Let's be real, but that's also like basically it's redundant to be like Pinoy gang and also gay gang rise up.
It's fucking fried, bro. It's fucking fried. And I'm happier than ever to be going my separate way, and I'm glad that what happened 5 months ago. I'm happy to be off of it. There is no future for me in FaZe. There is none. That was my last try. That was it. There's nothing, I have nothing left to give this. I gave it my entire adult life and I tried my hardest. And for anybody who's a fan of me and anybody who's a fan of FaZe, I am sorry. I've absolutely failed you. And the one thing I'm perfectly okay with taking accountability for is being the root cause of all of this. Because at the end of the day, I am. This is, in a fucking twisted way, all my fault. Because at the end of the day, I put these guys in a room. At the end of the day, I went and raised money. I convinced, these business people that this vision and these guys were a good bet to take. I thought in good faith that, if we gave people careers, if we fucking gave everybody the best resources and this shit worked, then...
Bro, the problem in this situation is they didn't need to put however much investment did they put into it. And I don't know what the actual numbers look like, but like they could have had a sustainable business model without all of the fucking money that they dumped into it if they did, right? Like the notion that you feel the idea that you're gonna like without a contract up front, and even if that contract existed, by the way, I still think it would have been far too exploitative and far too demanding if you were like literally demanding 20% of their overall revenue, for example. And I don't have enough we don't have enough evidence at this point to see whether or not that's like a stipulation in the contract. But if that was the case, then that's unacceptable, right? But the like this is it's like getting upset that you made an investment. You made an investment, right? And that investment actually succeeded in the way that you wanted to make this investment because you wanted to revitalize the FaZe brand. The reason why you wanted to revitalize the FaZe brand is so that you could sell stuff to the new FaZe audience with the association of the FaZe brand. That succeeded. But instead of just like finding more sponsorships to bring on, asking for a higher percentage of the revenue that they were generating on their own, I mean, that's not going to work. That's why I think that's why I personally think the analogy with like waiters is a great example of this, where it's like you're demanding that the waiting staff, because of all the upfront investment you put into like putting this business model together, the waiting staff are making tips. And people are coming in specifically to see the waiting staff. And now you're like, well, I kind of want some more of the tips because otherwise we're just going to go bankrupt. It's like really fucked up. That's not how it goes. You know? Yeah. Or bartenders, an even better example, right? They do that though. I know. And it's fucked up when they do that. That's the whole point. But in this situation, because there is no barrier of entry to streaming and the product almost entirely is the content, the person, you can't really make these demands of the laborers. Whereas a bartender can go to a different bar and tend at a different bar, but he still needs a bar, right? If streamers can basically do the exact same stream that they're doing with their fucking phones, right? Maybe it'll be not the same. Maybe it won't be as like popping or whatever, right? But if they can do the exact same fucking stream on their phones, then they're gonna do that. It's a very there is not a lot of tremendous cost associated with. There's not a lot of overhead. There's no barrier of entry into streaming. There's a tremendous barrier of success. There's a tremendous barrier to reaching a level of success. But once you reach a level of success, it's entirely in the hands of the person to continue that success or to continue expanding on that success.
And everything else will figure itself out. And I'm so fucking naive and retarded to have not made sure everything was fucking better articulated and solidified and just like people were on the same page. I don't know, man. I failed miserably. It's not the first L that I'm taking in my life. It's not the first time I've failed. But yeah, I wish that, in a weird way, I do wish that I fucking was closer to the fold the last 4 or 5 months. I don't think that this all would have happened this way. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, unfortunately, like I said,
I really don't know.
Music industry isn't being run by musicians. So it's being run by accountants and lawyers. So I don't know if they'd know real music if they heard it. What they're looking for is acts that are going to make the most money for them. So you'll see all kinds of little gimmicks, so to speak. And ultimately, real music is just about a microphone and a spotlight. If you can get over like that and bring the special effects within your body, you know, then I think you're gonna have a lot longer career.
what to do. I don't know what else to say. I'm gonna be live on Twitch because I have a lot to say about a lot of specific examples of things that have happened in the back end, in the background, and I'm gonna be coming correct with receipts, and I'm gonna be completely open book about everything where I went wrong, where I feel other people went wrong. Yeah. Merry Christmas, y'all.
I think the better, like the best scenario here would be if this is based around friendship and vibes, then you run it in a cooperative structure. That's it. If it's based on friendship, vibes, clout, then you don't put that much investment up front. Okay. And you also start in that same way, right? Not a FaZe Clan, but a FaZe guild. But that's it. When do you think the Lacey X Grand Platinum tattoo cover-up stream will be? That's so funny. Yeah, a lot of people say like the Sidemen. But then how do you rent the massive mansion? Because these guys already had money. It's not like they didn't have money. They don't rent that massive mansion, but they make a more responsible decision. But they make it together. That's how it works. How do you do you not understand that? It doesn't have to be. How much more impact does that have when you're in a massive mansion like that one? And they've moved from house to house already, and it hasn't like changed the dynamic of the content all that much. As a matter of fact, the thing that they got mad about always was the internet, the bit rate. You know? That's the difference between top-down decision-making versus a bottom-up structure where all the people that are actually playing a role in the process, in the creation of the content, are actually bringing in feedback. They have input. Okay? That's it. I found them. Bish. Saul. I don't know, man. I stopped watching them when they went from a 32-room mansion to a 29-room mansion. It just didn't feel the same no more. Yeah. I do think that a democratized structure here where people have more input on all of these decisions would unironically give you a much longer, would unironically create a much more sustainable operation. And that is not on some fucking, socialism bullshit. It is something that I genuinely believe. DraftKings co-founder Matt Kalshi launches Heartscope, media platform designed to help scale creator brands. The team behind Heartscope was also behind FaZe Clan's award-winning 2024 relaunch. And I think this actually plays a big role in this as well. Matt Kalish, co-founder of DraftKings, is launching a new company designed to help creators scale their brands. Kalish will be the CEO of the new venture. Heartscope is designed to give independent creators access to C-suite capabilities, including help and tools around strategy, creative assets, production, social media distribution, commercialization. What they're basically doing is like trying to lock young talent into 360 deals that are hyper exploitative. They didn't get to do it with the new FaZe. They couldn't do it with the new FaZe because they didn't actually have the same level of control. But the irony is, if they do actually have this level of control over what kind of like content that you're making, it's never going to work. Yeah, Machinima back in the day is a great example. Exactly. This is an MCN structure. You can't do 360 deals and then stunt people's growth opportunities because like then they can't organically pop off. They can't organically make content that like it turns into a fucking job. Okay. And I think they're trying to do like a K-pop style structure around streaming as well. That's literally what they're trying to do. It's just, this is capitalism. Every new growing sector, every new industry is always going to have, big business coming in a predatory manner and trying to farm as much revenue as they possibly can, right?